8.
You're watching the Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Hey, everybody. I am Christopher, a.k.a. the Bronze Age Nerd, and that's
Big B McFly, the comic guy.
And together, we are your hosts for Best Coast Comics here, hanging out on the West Coast. If you're watching us over on the East Coast, we appreciate that. Also, anywhere in between or anywhere outside. If you're on a coast or like near a coast or your country has a coast, you're welcome here, and we'd love to have you here. So thanks for spending some time with us as we talk about comic book news and all kinds of fun stuff. So we got an action-packed show tonight, lots of topics that we're going to get to. Before I do that, I do want to say hi to everybody that jumped into the chat nice and early, and we'll say hi to you throughout the show and highlight your comments. GT Key Comic holding it down with a score of comments. I appreciate that. Hello, Richard Westfall is here hanging out. We love that too. Psycho Phil, John Stout, all these excellent, awesome people out there. Shadow Rat, by the way, I have a package getting ready to go your way tomorrow. So keep that in mind. That'll be coming out tomorrow. You'll have your tracking probably tonight, actually. We have, everybody here in the house. Triple B, Hardcore Comics, holding it down. Awesome. And Jay is in the chat as well. We appreciate that, Jay. I hope you're here, Jay, as our producer. That's very, very awesome, and I do appreciate that. Also, Dr. Plagueis, getting in there in my string of hellos, which there'll be other hellos throughout the night. Real fast, I thought I'd start the show this way. I'm going to give you a recap of some of the topics we're going to talk about tonight, so you can kind of stay tuned and know that we have some topics coming up real fast. And I just want to make sure that everybody kind of is like, hey, what are these guys even talking about tonight? Tonight we are going to talk about the John Tyler Christopher Wolverine cover thing that I posted on Instagram, and also just kind of that phenomenon in general, but basically kind of like adding trade dress and kind of ruining covers, or does it ruin covers? We're going to talk about the Hero Restoration story where the owner of Hero Restoration was arrested. We're going to talk about some X-Men 97 news and some Beau DeMayo news and some rewrites that might be happening. Some movie news with Captain America, Brave New World, and Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. We're going to talk about some community artwork. We're going to do a giveaway, which I'll talk about here in 1 second, so stay tuned for that. Free giveaway. Also, my July channel member giveaway. We'll do that too as well, because I realized I need to do that. So we're going to do some giveaways. And to do those giveaways, all you have to do is do #terrific in the chat. You get a chance to win some free books. This week, we are giving away... I threw in some... I started to pulling the raw books so you guys know what you're getting. Batman Adventures, number 13. You're one off from a mega key there, but hey, still a very cool comic book. Giving away some Lady Death. And I'm giving away the first appearance of Spider-Boy, the Alex Ross Virgin variant. That's a Marvel open order Virgin where they didn't cover it with trade dress. So that does happen for people that are saying that doesn't happen. It does all the time. And also the first volume of Astounding Wolfman, Robert Kirkman's awesome character. I love this. It's a good read. Also, really good chance that he'll be coming to Invincible because there is a crossover in that show. So that comic book. So also a fun book for that. #terrific if you want a chance to win in the chat. And the last thing I'll say before we turn it over to our first topic is, if you're watching on the Bronze Age Nerd YouTube channel, that's awesome. If you're watching on the Experience YouTube channel, that's awesome. If you're watching on Big B McFly's YouTube channel, we appreciate that as well. We really would like you to go and subscribe to all those other channels as well. All the links in the description below. So appreciate that. Now that said,
19 off of 1,500.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Maybe we'll get you there tonight. Fingers crossed. So yeah, #terrific to win that giveaway. You know, at the beginning of the show, we usually tackle things like guests or special announcements, stuff like that. And so this show is no different. We have a special guest. His name is Big B McFly, the comic book guy. And he's here to tell us about his experience of what he did this weekend. I heard you had some fun this weekend.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'm still reeling from I literally got home like an hour and a half before the show started. But yeah, a terrific con. And got to meet Los out there actually at the show. So yeah, it was super fun. and I guess I'm gonna kind of go through. I'm uploading a video right now. It's gonna be like a in-depth kind of overview, recap of the show, but I just kind of want to go through and show some stuff. So, like,
Nice.
very first thing, I flew out with Dan from Dan's X-Men Comics on Instagram, and first stop we got to, he pulls this book out of the bag. He says, "Hey, I have a gift for you." So he had Marvel Tales Annual #1, which is actually I learned something new. That's actually Marvel Tales #1. Also, they didn't. The first 2 issues are annuals, and then Marvel Tales starts with issue 3. So Marvel Tales
That's
Annual.
awesome.
So
Dan's an awesome dude.
yeah, it was super cool. And then this whole deal was like a big, huge group of YouTubers that are my friends. That a year ago we decided we wanted to get together and hang out and meet one another in person and just be able to enjoy each other's company. And that's more than anything what it was all about. I got to meet Mike from Gemini Comics, Colossus Collector, hang out with Dan. Mr. Akins from What's on the Comic Rack was my roommate, and we hung out all the time, and it was super cool. I'm like, it's weird not to be hanging out with him right now. So yeah, it was just a great show. I mean, and I'm missing out JP and Rohan from Absolute Game and Nerds, Bruce from Up North Comics, Ricky from All Sorts of Words. Gosh, I feel like I'm going to forget somebody, and I'm going to feel terrible. But it was an amazing weekend. So, and Brandon from Mon Comics, because the first book I bought, I walked in with Brandon, and he was looking for a Silver Surfer 4, and we went to a very stable. He picked up a Silver Surfer 4, and I saw this book on the wall, and I looked at it, and I go, "Why is that graded? What it's graded?" It's never been cleaned and pressed. It's Avengers 57 First Vision. And I showed it to Jeff from Comic Spa, and he says he thinks with a clean and a press it could be as high as a 9. So
Dang, that's an awesome book.
yeah, and so I was able to pick that up for I believe 350, which is an amazing price for that.
Yeah, nice.
And by the way, I'm not made of money, guys. I've been saving all year to go to this show.
Can confirm.
So on both counts, right?
Yeah.
Not made of money and been saving up. So the second book I picked up was Doctor Strange, 169.
Nice.
Yeah, and a 7.5. Yeah,
That
nice.
was on your list.
Yep, I have a list of books that I've been looking for. I did deviate a little bit from that list, because I like my indie stuff. I have an appreciation for the indie books, and so I saw this book on the wall, and I was like, I couldn't believe the price. Star Slayer #2 in a 9.6.
Oh, awesome.
And they had $100 on it. And before I could say anything, the guy told me he would take 75 or less.
Love that dealer.
Yeah, so I was like, all right. Yeah, very cool book. If you guys don't know, first appearance of the Rocketeer, Dave, and I don't know if it's first Dave Stevens, but it's first Rocketeer, first Dave Stevens character Rocketeer. So
yeah, it's not the first Dave Stevens work, but it is like probably one of the earliest significant Dave Stevens books.
Right. And then same dealer. So sticking with the indie books, I was looking at his wall, and he had another big book that I've been wanting to pick up, and he had Fantasy Quarterly #1, first appearance of ElfQuest.
Yeah, dude.
So it's a 1970s indie book, and it kind of kicks off the entire indie industry for comics. And I loved ElfQuest as a kid. I had those big books that you could borrow from the library, and then eventually bought them myself. And so it was cool. So they had that for $275. I think I got that and the first Rocketeer for $300.
Wow.
So, and then later that evening, I did a little trading, a little horse swapping with Mr. Akins from What's on the Comic Rack, and I picked up this beauty.
Oh yeah,
121 and a 9.8.
First full alpha flight and 9.8, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah. And I got to shout out Mr. Akins. He was so cool. He took care of me for the room. I gave him some gifts and stuff in exchange for him taking care of me for the room and stuff. But then we did some trading. So the video, like I said, it's uploading right now. It's going to be on right after our show, actually.
Very cool.
So let's see where to go next. Okay, so Bronze asked me to interview or ask people to be part of Heroes for Heroes for the Mission 22 deal, and I did my best to do the spiel. I stumbled a few times. I would be like, "Okay, Bronze is much better at this. Just trust me." But okay, take two. Okay, let me. And I had a great response. I got the message from Bronze. Like he's like, "Holy cow, you hit the ground running."
Yeah, he was just sending me contacts and people that we're going to be reaching out to and trying to see what they can do. And it sounded like some of them were already in. They just wanted, kind of the what do I do basically. And so that's
right.
That's
yeah, they're just like reach out and tell us what to do. So people were just amazing. So that was really, really cool. And so we got a few books that were signed and donated by some creators. And they actually said that they want to come on and talk and maybe donate some more stuff. So
awesome.
This book's called Euphoria by Eric O'Connor. And it's pretty cool. It's a book about a serial killer in 1989 who finds out that he's being hunted by another serial killer. And so it's pretty cool. It's all in black, white, and red. It's very interesting.
I am posting the link to Mission 22 for the Heroes for Heroes campaign. It's the official donation link. If any of you want to check it out and kind of bookmark it, to share it with others, that's what we're talking about right now. Is that's if you're kind of curious what that is, there's some information on there as well about what Mission 22 does and helping to prevent veteran suicide and depression.
Never too early to get started donating. If you guys want to, if you guys feel led to do that, that's awesome. So I had a great discussion with the fellow who runs SHP Comics. I love this retro-looking book. Mr. Akins kept trying to fold back the fold over on the corner down here. He's like, that's not a fold over. So it's a sci-fi horror comedy, I guess, about companion bots gone wrong. So that one, and hope that wasn't too risque. It's a robot. Oops.
Considering what happened, I would avoid it if possible. Oh, now you're muted. I unmuted myself, and now you're muted.
There you go. Oh.
Yeah. So maybe kind of avoid any of those, and we'll show them on Instagram or whatever.
Sorry about that.
No, okay. I know you're probably tired from just getting. I mean, by the way, if you don't know, Big B just got home.
Yeah. And then this one is a vampire horror book that takes place during Woodstock called Woodstake. So,
nice.
Yeah, and this is a graphic novel of that signed by the creator over here. So
right on.
Yeah. So
hey, actual Dracula's in the chat. He's probably gonna love that book.
Yeah,
or hate it. I don't know. Maybe
or hate it. Woodstake, Woodstock. So there's that. So then Ricky from All Sorts of Words had brought a short box of comics to trade, get rid of, eliminate from his collection, and he was not feeling the energy to do it. And so at breakfast one day, he says, "Hey, I've got a box of books. It books out between, low book $700 to $800, higher book like $1,500 to $2,000. He's like, anybody who wants it can have it for $300." And I went up to his room, took a look at it. It was all really cool silver and Bronze Age stuff that I thought would be great for our claim sales. I bought it, and then I started figuring like, how am I going to get this home? And I decided I was just going to flip it at the show. And so I flipped it at the show, and I will show you what I was able to acquire for it. So I took it to a dealer first. One dealer, he went through and he said, "These are the 5 best books I see in there, and I would give you $100 for it." And I was like, nah, maybe I'll come back. And I put the 5 books in my side pouch bag, and I was carrying the box, and I went over to another booth, and we started talking. And he's looking at the box, and he offered me substantially more. And he said, we could do some trading. So we did some trading, and then a little cash. And so that picked up.
Oh, nice.
Cap 117.
Oh yeah.
Also on my list. This should have been on my list, but it was.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Variant cover of First Winter Soldier.
Is that cover to have?
And we were talking about this one on our last show.
Oh yeah. That's awesome.
To first prototype Wolverine. So
Yeah. I don't even. How much does that book go for? I don't even know the FMV on that. Yeah. Okay. Is that about right, or is that a little?
Actually, it's a little low.
Okay.
So yeah. So
it doesn't surprise me. If any, I thought it'd be like $500 or so, probably. But
yeah, the artwork is beautiful. I just love it. So yeah. So picked that up, and then I pulled out those 5 books, and I was like, oh, well, I also have these. And so there was 2 dealers in the booth, and they were talking to me as I'm trading, and they're coming over like, well, I'd be interested in this. I'd give you this much. And they're handing me cash, and I didn't really realize, like, I'm like kind of wheeling and dealing while I'm trying to trade. And Mr. Akins was there. He's like, how much cash should we come away with? And I go, I think like $70. And then later I pulled out my pocket. I go, I have almost $200 in here. I don't know where it came from. So I think we did pretty good. We got about almost $1,000 worth of stuff for the
wow, awesome
$300 investment. And then Mike from Lunch Money Comics gave me a really cool gift, a whole bunch of Pence X-Men.
Oh yeah.
So
nice.
I love those Pence editions. They're pretty cool. So
yeah. From the golden era of Uncanny.
Yeah. You got Cyclops there. Your boy.
Oh,
Several
yeah.
Cyclops on the cover there. So
yeah.
In the Rogue Storm issue. Oh, and this is a different book.
Ooh, yeah.
So this is a funny story because I was talking to the guy, and he has. I'm looking at this book, and I keep seeing it for $50 to $80, and I'm like, this guy had a nice high grade copy, and he had $35 on it. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, you know me, gamer's got a game. I'm like, hey, how about 25? And the guy says, nah, I'm pretty firm on that 35. And I said, okay. And he told me that a lot of his books have been priced back in 2022, 2021. And so that's why I made the offer. I started walking away. I said, I might circle back. It may be gone. That's the chance I got to take. And I started walking away. He goes, it's not going to be gone. I've had that book for 5 years. And I stopped my tracks. And I looked at him and I said, you've had this book for 5 years. Somebody just made you an offer on it, and you're just going to sit on it? And he started thinking, and I said, I'll give you 30. He said, okay, deal. So I got it for 30. So the first appearance of Rhodey, $30. So
nice.
Speaking of other crazy deals, so I kept telling people that I thought this was an underpriced book, and I never took my own advice. And then I was seeing this book all over the show for $300, $400, $500. And I walked up to one dealer, and he had it on his wall. It's the First Shield.
Yeah.
Also on my list. He had it on his wall. It had $65 price tag on it. And I was like, yeah, I'm interested. And he's like, I'd do 40.
Wow.
It was like, I'm literally standing in his booth looking across the way at another copy for $400. I mean, it's got a little spine damage on it, but
yeah.
Yeah. So
hey, nothing wrong with a. I mean, it looks like it's presenting pretty well. Besides that one spine tick.
Yeah. And then pick this book up. Another one that is on the list, and it's not perfect. It's a 9092, but it's a low print run book from that era.
Yeah.
That's
on my list.
Yeah, and they had 300 on it. This is from the people who run Heroes Con. So they were really cool. I got to talk to them and possibly set up some stuff for passes for me and others to go to Heroes Con.
Right.
But I was like, you got any wiggle room? And the guy goes, yeah, I'd take 220. And I looked at the grade, and I looked it up in cover price, and I'm like, that cover price says it's like $650 in that grade.
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, like the 300, I was excited.
Right. I was like, holy cow. So yeah, it seemed like a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Got to meet the legendary Al Milgram with Mr. Akins. He was getting a sketch done, and he had a really cool convention exclusive, Al Milgram convention exclusive book. First appearance of Rocket Raccoon. And as I'm walking away, I go, wow, that's really cool. And I just wanted to say, and I was walking away, he goes, well, if it's that cool, Al Milgram is very sarcastic if you've never met him. He's like, if it's that cool, then why aren't you buying it? And I was like, well, you're right. And I go, does that, he had it said $10. I said, does that include an autograph? He said, it does today. And so it's like the cracked ice
like Shattered or whatever they call it.
Shattered or whatever. Al Milgram convention exclusive first.
That's cool.
So yeah, I thought it was kind of a neat book.
Right on.
And then the last thing, I don't know if you guys have been watching like the shorts on my channel, but for a while there, I was doing all the Lois Lane covers. And when I was doing them, I fell in love with this cover, and I was like, if I ever find a really nice copy of this, I'm going to pick it up. And it's beautiful, good girl art. I don't care about Superman on the cover. Let's just cover Superman up. Yeah, and it was a nice high grade copy. And the guy had 2 copies on his wall. He's like, well, I have 2. He's like, I'm a motivated seller. And I was like, all right. And
now I'm a motivated buyer.
He said, how's $40 sound? And I was like, are you kidding?
Wow.
So
Nice, man. Good scores.
Yeah. So I was super happy with that. So those are the books. There's going to be, if you watch the other stuff, there's some recap of other cool things that happened and stuff that Mr. Akins picked up and stuff. But really cool. There was Charlie Cox was there doing autographs. That was pretty cool. Kind of funny thing was like everybody was paying and standing in line to see him, and at the end of the show, they came over the PA and they said, Charlie Cox is still here. If anyone wants to come back and meet him, shake his hand, get an autograph. I was like, all these people who were in line for hours to see him, and you could just walk back there and go see him. But yeah, we stayed until they kicked us out. They actually walked up to us like, are you vendors? And we're like, no. They go, you need to leave. So yeah.
So you got to meet Charlie Cox.
I did not actually.
Oh, okay.
I was in the midst of a very, very good discussion with a group of 3 up and coming young artists and talking to them about Mission 22 and some other things. So I did not get a chance to go see Charlie Cox, but yeah, he was there and he was signing stuff. Oh, and they had a surprise autograph session with Keanu Reeves that morning. The first on Friday morning. They had a surprise autograph session with Keanu Reeves. First 100 people to get in line. And they said it was like one of those endurance television shows because you had to stay in line in this queue. And there was like 6 hours of standing in line to get to meet these 100 people get to meet Keanu Reeves. And they got a free copy.
With them.
Yeah. You got a free copy of Berserk, like a convention exclusive foil. And he signed it for people. So
wow, that's pretty cool for those first 100 people.
Yeah.
Especially for the first like 10 people.
Yeah. So Brandon from Mon Comics and Ricky from All Sorts of Words both were. I think it was 100 people, but I think there was maybe some sort of because there was more than some sort of a route. Anyway, they won the right to go see Keanu.
Wow, that's cool.
They said it was cool but traumatic. I'm standing in line that whole time.
Crazy. No, I could see. I mean, I wouldn't want to spend 6 hours of my convention time unplanned in line, but I would also want to meet Keanu Reeves and do a little, especially if he spent some time with you.
Right.
So it's kind of a mixed bag there, but I can't wait to hear their story. I'm sure they're going to talk about it at some point, but
right.
Yeah. Well, cool. We're at a good, I think, quick little point here where we can do a quick little break for one of our ad breaks. And then when we come back, there is, I think, probably at least one more story. I'm sure I want to hear about Terrificon. I can't imagine you're not going to tell it. Maybe you're saving it.
Oh, you let me know, and I'll bring it. I'll spout it out.
Okay.
I'm just tired.
Fair enough. And then after that, we'll pretty quickly get into some of the news stories.
Oh, I know what it is. Does it have to do with breakfast?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'll tell that story for sure.
Yes, trust me, it's worth it, folks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's our first ad break. So just check out some of these sponsors over on the EXP. I do remind you, go subscribe up over on the EXP YouTube channel or any of their other places. Make sure you're following them. And here's some of the cool shows you can check out over on the EXP.
Order Battle Quest comics at your local comic shop today.
According to a statistic that I just made up, people spend 4 hours a day changing the television channel. People who watch The Experience don't do that. Save yourself a ton of time by tuning into The Experience and enjoying our new original programming 7 days a week. And then tell your friends. Think about the money they could save on batteries in the remote alone just by tuning into The Experience. Find out more by scanning the QR code below.
Live from New York. What? Oh, sorry. Live from Cleveland? It's Friday night? It's Friday Night Live! With Nancy McCann. And Ricky. And sometimes Carlos. And featuring boxes and boxes of rare comics. Unique collectibles. Lots of smiles and conversations with new friends. Friday Night Live with Comics Unlimited. Friday night from 9 to 11 on The Experience.
And welcome back to Best Coast Comics. Once again, I'm Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd. We got Big B McFly, the comic book guy. So we were talking about Terrificon, which I just want to remind you, you can win some free comic books by doing #Terrific in the chat. That's right. We're doing a free giveaway at the end of the show. Only conditions there are, please make sure you contact me after the show with your shipping information. I currently have 2 winners that I'm waiting for shipping information from. I can't send them their stuff. Other than that, everybody else is going to have their stuff out tomorrow. So hopefully if you get a hold of me right after the show, your stuff will go out tomorrow as well. But yeah, just make sure that you get a hold of me after the show and make sure you enter #Terrific for a chance to win some free comic books. All right. So Big B, I know something happened at this show that blew me away. I thought it was really cool. It's kind of the stuff you hear about and you just don't expect it to actually happen.
Yeah.
Do you have another story to tell?
I do have another story to tell. So the first day that we went down to breakfast, we were surprised to see Walt Simonson sitting with a large chunk of the people from our group. And unfortunately, I didn't get to sit with him and hear his stories, but I was able to kind of like shoot pictures over my shoulder, and our group was able to hang with him, and it was pretty cool. The second day, who should walk in but Walt Simonson again. And he came right over to our booth and hung out with us, and we all actually got to hang and talk with him for a while. And at the end of that, we pulled one of the menus out of their protective holders, and we all got to autograph it. And Walt signed it across the top. And so the Mike from Lunch Money got to hang on to that menu, but we all took pictures with it. And got to have a great time hanging out with Walt. And then again this morning, we're getting ready to leave, and Mr. Akins and I are sitting there, and we see Walt sitting at a table all by himself. So, let's do 3 breakfasts with Walt. So we walked over, and we said, "Hey, Walt." And he all smiles, stood up. He's like, "Hi guys, how you doing? I thought you guys had all left already." And we were like, "No, we're the last of soul survivors." And so. He took some more pictures, shot a little video with us, and it was just amazing. So Walt was
awesome.
Yeah, and he promised to next time that he's at a show, hang out with us and have breakfast, and he'll bring Louise, because Louise wasn't feeling well, so she wasn't there this time.
Yeah, they're and man, Walt and Louise are just like that would be a dream. That'd be so awesome.
I heard so many great stories about Louise Simonson and how she really held the Marvel movement together. And I would love to see a documentary about that. So,
100%. I mean, yeah, I feel like kind of an almost underrated force in comic books. Walt obviously has a legendary career in his own right. But both, I mean, geez, just some of the stuff they worked on together. I really liked her stuff on X Factor. There's just so much good stuff.
Well, the stuff I heard wasn't from Walt. It was from. So I don't know if you know, but or everybody knows, but I like to go and talk to the legendary older guys. So, Al Milgram had some stories about her. Gosh, I can't think of the name of the fella. I'm going to draw a blank now, but just a ton of stories from every creator that I talked to, and they all had, for some reason or another, a story about Louise Simonson. So,
yeah, no, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you got a chance to meet him. I mean, that's cool. And when I say meet, like, it's not just that typical con meeting experience where they're at their table. I mean, you got to absorb some real Walt Simonson. That's
right.
Really
yeah, he's just there eating his food and hanging out and having a good time talking with us. So it was so cool.
That is cool. I'm really jealous. I'm really happy you got to have that experience, man. That's cool. I've always wanted to have that kind of experience at a con. I've heard my old co-host on this show, this time slot at least, Kyle. He's had that kind of experience, like hanging out eating sandwiches with people at cons and doing those kinds of fun things. And it's like that's a different level of interaction. That's really cool.
It was cool. And there was other creators that we saw, but you just didn't want to I saw Al Milgram again later on after he had done the sketch from Buddy, and we just passing. I went, Al, great job on his sketch. And he's like, hey, come over here, guys. And he's like, just talk to us for a few minutes and everything. So everybody is just so welcoming and nice there. So it was nice. It was really, really enjoyable.
Well, that's awesome. I'm very glad to hear it. Speaking about hanging out with cool people at cons, you and I both got a chance to hang out with Chris from Comic Tropes at Washington State Summer Con. That was really fun. Got to break some bread with him and walk on the show floor with him for a while. Felt very cool to do that. And he asks, what's the drama this week? And I mean, hey, we're not really into the drama part of covering the news and the stories so much, because we like to talk about the more pragmatic approach to these stories. But there is some stuff going on, including one of the things I talked about on Instagram this week, and it got a little more traction than I expected, to be honest. So I think we're going to move into that story next. Unless I just want to make sure, is there anything else from Terrificon you wanted to make sure you got a chance to?
Well, Comic Tropes asked me if I want any money. I did not, but Dan from Dan's X-Men Comics turned $100 into $1,000. So
dang,
he did. He said he 1 out of 10 would not advise, but he got down to his last $20 and in a desperation play won like 500, and then was able to parlay that into 1,000 and said, "Okay, I'm done."
Wow. Well, congratulations to him. I'm sure he was able to put that to good use at the show, or at least covering the cost from the show.
Right.
But yeah, that's the first thing I want to talk about. So this is kind of a phenomenon that keeps happening, and it's certainly nothing new in comic books. But this is the idea behind, I made this image, I don't know, meme, whatever you want to call it, complaining post, whining, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So this is a John Tyler Christopher comic book. The image on the left is the artwork that was solicited at the original solicitation. And it's very clearly I guess you'd call it an homage or a successor to, I think it was a New York Comic-Con exclusive, I want to say, for Wolverine #1 from like the previous volume of Wolverine. That was like the Krakoa era Wolverine volume. And it was his astonishing X-Men suit, which is obviously very similar to the suit. So a lot of people think it's the same artwork. It's not. It's actually subtly different. And I'll get a chance to show you some of those in a second. But the final artwork contains trade dress, which that's nothing new. Again, that's really common. But there's a C2E2 exclusive. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, this is one of the JTC negative space variants, which he's pretty much the master of. I will admit that. And this has nothing to do with his artwork. I absolutely love his artwork. I've got a lot of John Tyler Christopher stuff I really enjoy. But why is this such a big deal to me? Why do I care about this? So first of all, that's a very expensive comic book, and I don't own a copy of it. So I was like, oh, cool. I'll pre-order a copy of this for FOC. It'd be kind of nice to own a version of that cover that's pretty close to the original.
Right.
And I feel a little bummed when I see the trade dress get slapped on it when it wasn't solicited that way. And the reason I want to talk about this is because there's a lot of comments that came through that were maybe critical or whatever, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. But I wanted to kind of, instead of like trying to address them in the comments, which never is that fun, I wanted to kind of take a second to kind of stroll down memory lane and talk about some of the things going on here. So real fast, I'm going to bring up our old pal eBay, which, not really anybody's pal, but unless you're an eBay seller, I guess.
Right.
And so one of the things people were saying is that, Marvel Comics, or big two comic books, they don't do Virgin variants. They're open order. Well, that's not true. No. In fact, with all the John Tyler Christopher comics, most of the ones that have been open order have been Virgins. You got this Kid Venom cover that just came out, this Magic cover for X-Men 1 that just came out. Here's the original, by the way. You can see it's a slight difference on the yellow costume on the cover. That's, again, more of his Astonishing X-Men look. It's maybe slightly different than that costume because the ears are a little longer than his Astonishing X-Men John Cassaday artwork, but it's clearly based on that costume. Then there's, he has done some exclusives for sure. There was like a Moon Knight exclusive, some other ones. This Rogue, I think, was an exclusive. I want to say, maybe I'm wrong about that, but a lot of these have been open order. This Boba Fett was an exclusive.
That Rogue is awesome. I love that Rogue.
Yeah, the Rogue is awesome. The Rogue and the Wolverine were like two of the earlier ones, as far as I know. But a lot of these are open order, and they're not anything. This Spider-Gwen. And I've pre-ordered a few of these. There was a Blade one that came out recently.
I have that Spider-Man one, the black one. I have that one.
Oh yeah. Okay. So there's lots of good ones here. But they're definitely not always exclusives or ratios. Yeah, the Phoenix. Yeah, there's actually I think 3 color variations on this one, and that was I think a exclusive to his website, perhaps. So it's kind of, I get the confusion there with some of them being exclusive and some of them being not. But it isn't one of those things where it's always true that there's always trade dress on the Virgin open order covers. In fact, one of the reasons that I did one of the giveaway comics for tonight, which is a easy way for me to say, hey, let's go ahead and do #terrific for your chance to win, is because this Alex Ross, all the Timeless comics that came out, these were open order Virgin covers. And they do a lot of those. So it's not really that that's the case. So why do I care about this so much? The biggest reason is I've seen too many comic books that I care about have great artwork that gets ruined by trade dress. In this case, I would say that the trade dress shouldn't even be on there, or it should be, I think Comic Trips, I think it was him that said something about shrunk down. Maybe they should have shrunk the art slightly to balance it with the trade dress. Yeah, exactly. That's one way they could have handled it. There's better ways to execute it in this case.
I'm a big fan of the way DC have been doing the minimalized trade dress. That was really nice on this, just a little line of text up the side.
Yeah, and there's actually comic books I think where there's a Virgin and a trade dress variant, and the trade dress looks better in a lot of cases. So it's not like I always hate trade dress or anything like that. It just depends on the cover. It depends on how it was originally intended to be presented. And clearly this is supposed to evoke that original Wolverine exclusive. So the other thing that happens, though, it's not just this comic book, and it's not just when this happens in total, but there's comic books that have had, you see the solicitation, it's just the Virgin artwork. It's not going to be a Virgin because it comes from a retailer where they don't do Virgins as standalone releases, right? Like it's usually a ratio. But then they'll put the trade dress on it, and you know what? I'll even go and call it out, like Zenoscope. They'll add a border or a frame around the artwork that covers part of the artwork in pretty bad spots to cover the artwork, in my opinion. I think a lot of other people have agreed with that too. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those things where it keeps happening. And I know, Big B, you were a retailer for a long time. I know this is, maybe a little, I don't know if you saw much of this when you were a retailer, because I know it's kind of a somewhat newer phenomenon, but did you ever see any of this kind of stuff? Like, what's your thoughts on this? Is like, as a retailer, how would this make you feel knowing that, maybe people pre-ordered 10 times what they might another version of this comic book because they're like, oh, that'll sell because it's that John Tyler Christopher version variant. and now it has trade dress on it. Now they're holding the bag.
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of that. I mean, I was at the very beginning of the boom for ratio variants and stuff. Was my last part of it. So yeah, I didn't see a whole lot of it. But yeah, I feel bad for people. I mean, you did get some things where things didn't come. The image didn't look exactly the way you thought it would when it was solicited originally. So it's always frustrating. It might be interesting because like a lot of times when things like that would happen, they would offer returnability or something if people complained enough. So that might happen.
Yeah, I am curious in this case, and I know there's a lot of people. Brian McClay. I like Brian McClay quite a bit. He's a good buddy of mine. We've talked a lot. He left a comment on the post I made for the show because it's kind of obvious that we're going to talk about it in the thumbnail of the show. And he said one of the things I want to make sure I get his. I'll just read his comment, so I'll make sure I get his quote right here. He said, I disagree about the Wolverine book. They needed to do that so they didn't devalue the original. And I'll put that up so you can kind of see his comment. And Brian's a good dude. I replied that I kind of don't agree with that because if the art was so good in the first place, this shouldn't devalue the original because it's kind of an homage. It's kind of a successor. If anything, I could see it generating more interest in the original if it's really worthy of that in the first place. And I think that's kind of a sign that if that word dropped, that maybe that was kind of an overpriced book to begin with, perhaps.
Well, whoever put that logo in there, that's really awful. The way they covered up part of his mask and stuff. It's just
it's not even a good job at that.
It's bad placement.
Yeah, 100% agree with that too. It's like because even if you are going to add the trade dress, it could have been done better.
Right.
Also, a lot of times on these, I also don't necessarily love the we're going to add the trade dress later, and it shouldn't be final stuff like that. Like that's almost like you could just clip art the Wolverine title over the top, and people would understand. Okay, it's going to have trade dress.
Right. That it was kind of a bait and switch. I think. But
I think so to a certain degree, and maybe it's not the end of the world, but it's one of those things where I think where we're trying to talk about protecting retailers, and we want to see them succeed, and stuff like this doesn't help them. Every retailer I saw speak about this wasn't super happy about it. So that's one of the things I think that should be brought up too. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I feel like they could have done a better job here. I will see if there's any other comments here. What did you throw down the stairs to release your anger?
My grandmother.
Is that a Sylvester Stallone movie or a Danny DeVito movie or?
I don't know.
Don't throw Mama from the train, and they're trying to. Yeah, that's a dark movie. Now that I think about it, I don't remember it very well, but I remember there's some plot like that.
Right. Leonard's quote is interesting. I have an opinion on that too.
Oh yeah,
I think that we're going to see early versions of graphic novels start to increase in value because it's always the thing that people don't treat well and treat as a collectible. So we've always treated these things as just books and throwaway material. And there's some exclusive material in a lot of those books. There's exclusive artwork on a lot of the covers. Yeah. So I think we're going to start seeing collectability to graphic novels in some day. So.
No, I think that there's definitely something to that. I know at one point before the comic boom happened, there was a few people talking about some early omnibus and different early trades that actually go for a good amount because they weren't reprinted, that kind of thing. So I definitely could see that.
There's actually a lot of some stories go out of print, and you'll see the out of print books on Amazon. The only way you can get them, and they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times the value of what they were originally.
Yeah, and I mean, G.I. Joe, for example. I mean, until Skybound made it clear that they're going to reprint those books. A lot of those books were hard to find in print, and people have been out there like, how do I collect versions of G.I. Joe? Like, how do I do that? The Marvel run, I mean, the original run. So we do have to take our second ad break real fast. So I'm gonna break away to do that. We have one more ad break. So stick around for a couple more minutes. Trust me, we have a lot more fun topics to talk about, or a lot more newsworthy topics to talk about that we're going to get into, and we're going to kind of wrap up our final thoughts on this topic while we're waiting for the ad break to finish up, go ahead and let me know what your thoughts are on this topic so we can read them when we get back from our ads, and we'll see you in about a couple minutes.
Sub everybody up.
Yeah, there you go. That's always important too.
So, the show is called The Geek Chat. And really, there's just a couple of geeks.
I'm Rich.
I'm Dez.
And we are your hosts for this weekly guide into comic bookery and all the geeky stuff that goes with it.
And that pretty much says it all. They talk about the latest movies and shows.
Okay, I'll be completely honest with you. Overall, D plus movie.
So the end. You know who that is?
That's She-Ra. Yeah.
Yes.
The new #1 comics of the week.
We rep Samuel Jackson and we rep Mace Windu.
I passed on this. I was like,
no regrets.
no regrets. I really wanted to like this book. I really did. Like, I really did.
And just chat with each other. And with you.
Oh, Daniel says, I dosed off with the first one. I have zero interest in the Joker Harley ship, not Harley herself. Enjoy, not for me. Yeah, this movie's going to be rough for me to sit through, I'll be honest.
The Geek Chat, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Just a couple of honest geeks.
Let's be honest. Come on.
And that is why people watch us, because we're honest.
Giving their honest opinions.
And the thing you always have to remember about the internet is everyone has an opinion, and they all suck.
Part of the experience.
What do you call the place on Spider-Man's wrists where the webs come out? His website. I hate myself for writing that joke, but you'd make me feel so much better if you just visited our website. We have links to our merch, new release lists, all the show info, and so much more. TheEXPLive.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and this is
Baby McFly, the comic guy.
And we are back with more Best Coast comics. Before the break, we were talking about the John Tyler Christopher Negative Space Wolverine variant that I'd mentioned on social media the other day. A lot of people clearly had some opinions on that, so I wanted to make sure and kind of talk about it on the show and address it. We are going to move on from this here pretty quickly. Before I do, I just want to point out that Richard and everybody else was talking about Don't Throw Mama from the Train. I was definitely conflating those two movies. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. The last thing I kind of wanted to say about that topic before we do move on is that basically there's a lot of people saying like, oh, you're going to see this in a ratio or a second printing. And I totally agree that there'll be like a virgin second print, 1 in 50 or something like that, right? And that's kind of the sad part, is that's almost like that predictable.
Right.
And we have a couple other comments I will get to, but I know somebody popped into chat that I wanted to address real fast. What's up, Kamikaze?
And hey, Kamikaze, it was great meeting you at Terrificon, and hanging out with you for a little bit. Also got to hang out with I met Tessa as a nerd up there. That was pretty cool. And Bronze Age Nerd, or not Bronze Age Nerd, sorry, Bronzeville Comics. I didn't meet you there, but I met Bronzeville Comics there. I got to hang out.
Bronzeville, okay, cool.
Yeah, and Pop Comics, Sean from Pop Comics. So it was really cool. A lot of people I didn't think were going to be there. So I started posting, and Sean was like, "You're going to be there? I'm coming down." So I was like, it was kind of neat. So,
nice. Yeah, I saw a few people that were heading there, and unfortunately, a good friend of mine, Scott, from Gamma Base Comics, wasn't able to make it to the show this year. But I was like, "Oh, cool! If he's going, I'll try to like hook all you guys up, and you guys can meet each other." He's a cool guy, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it this year. But a lot of other people did, and it looked like a fun show. So, just real fast on the whole variant cover thing. Comic Trip says, "Why is Dynamite so good at variants?" And I think it's because they planned them out. I will say though, there are people that are definitely frustrated with Dynamite and all their variants as well. But the beauty of it for me is if I want a Dynamite book, I can usually look at me like, okay, well, there's going to be at least one cover I like a lot, so maybe more.
Hey, I'm going to turn variants around back to Terrificon, because when I was talking to everybody about Heroes for Heroes and Mission 22 and all of that good stuff, I would give them my sticker and say, hey, sub me up on Instagram and YouTube, and please let's talk some more. And a lot of them looked in the publishers looked and said on my Instagram, they said, you do art as well? And they're scrolling down on the we need variant covers. We're going to talk to you. And I was like, really? And I'm like, don't mess with me. There, no, we'll reach out. I was like, so I was getting kind of excited.
Wow, well, that's cool, man. Yeah, your artwork is top notch. If you're showing it off to people and they're liking it, I'm not surprised at all. That makes a lot of sense. Mark says, and by the way, hi Mark, it's nice to see you in the show. By the way, that also sounded like a disaster artist reference or whatever. Or the room, is that what that movie's called? The terrible movie that everybody.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hi Mark. Hi Mark. I just feel like they try to stretch the art into as many ratios, printings, and variants as possible, so it was inevitable you'd get the trade dress. Yeah, and that's kind of what that's a really good point. That's kind of what we were just saying too. So who did the negative space variant covers first? The Wolverine artist you're showing, or all the David Nakayama? So David Nakayama isn't, I don't consider it like truly negative space, because he usually still has the outline.
I've seen some DNA. I've seen some DNA with where it doesn't have the outline.
He does some, but I think all the original like slew of ones, like he did like all the X-Men, or all the main X-Men at least, and a bunch of other. They were more like color themed. Like the Cyclops one was blue, and it had a very obvious blue cover. The Rogue one was yellow and kind of matched the yellow over costume, but it wasn't fully negative space. He has done negative space before, but I think of the John Byrne Spectacular Spider-Man.
I think that's probably one of the first negative space that I can remember.
I'm sure there's something before that too.
I'm sure, but it's one of the first ones. I'm sure it's like some Batman something, or
there's like a little dot comic from the 50s I've seen too. It's like the plaid pattern. I mean, so it really depends, but I don't know if it was intentional. Alpha Flight 3 is a Aurora cover that's negative space too.
Yeah.
So there's quite a few. That's a great question though, as far as what technically would count as the first one. I think it's a fantastic question.
Alpha Flight 3, that's another Byrne one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there we go. Adrian's kind of saying the same thing. So I do want to move on to our next story, just because I do want to keep the show moving. We definitely still have a lot of stuff to talk about. Not to speed through it, but there's a lot of topics, and we don't want the show to be 4 hours long. Sinkovich has done some good ones too. So the other thing I want to talk about, and first I want to give a quick shout out to Swaggle House Comics, who covered this story. This is about Hero Restoration's owner being arrested, as the title from the Statesman Journal here says, in connection with the theft of $300,000 in comic books. I am going to shout out Swaggle House Comics, because he shouted me out in his video where he talked about this. And really, honestly, I don't think I deserve it, because I didn't really talk about this as much. But hey, he did an awesome job doing that. But the other channel he shouted out is Bronze and Modern Gods. And he referenced both of us. Bronze and Modern Gods actually did do a fantastic job covering this Hero Restoration when it first came out. I covered a somewhat similar scandal thing that happened, which you actually can go see an interview about over on Comic Tropes channel, actually. So you can go, and by the way, I think he covered it on his weekly Spinner Rack show. So there's another thing you can go check out on his Pros and Cons channel. But that was a different hero named business that I was involved in some of the investigative stuff behind. This involves Hero Restoration, which was for years a legit, renowned comics restoration business, as far as I'm aware. And they did a lot of famous work doing restoration on comic books. Built a name for themselves. They were a sponsor of Comic Tom's YouTube channel for a while, and I believe also Gem Mint, or at least I think he interviewed them at one point. Interviewed Mike from Hero Restoration. So this is kind of one of those things where you had a seemingly legit business on all accounts, and the owner kind of changed his mind about how he wanted to comport himself as a person, apparently, and has now been arrested facing those crimes. So I highly recommend going and check out the Bronze and Modern Gods video for the original story. I also highly recommend checking out Spiegelhouse Comics' reaction to this, because they did a good job kind of covering this as well. This is somewhat of a local story for us here in the Northwest. I mean, I've been to Lebanon, where this story takes place in Lynn County, Oregon, many times. I used to work in that area, so I'm definitely familiar with this stuff. And there's another connection too here that says that he sold. Lynn County investigators found that some of the comic books were sold online or to a private comic book dealer in Washington, and I'm really curious about that. I am
I
looking
wonder
into
who that was.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you and I both know that there's, and I'm not definitely not talking names at this point on that, but there's maybe about 5 to 10 people I can think of that are on a short list of people that would be picking up a large amount of
Picking that kind of stuff up. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So-
I mean, I'm more, I'm sure, than I know, of course, but those are the ones that are publicly out there doing it.
So, what was this guy's modus operandi? I mean, like, how was he expecting to get away with this? Was he switching out people's books with lower grade books? Was he just flat out selling people's books?
It sounded like, so from what I'm aware of with this story, it sounded like he basically just said F it at one point and decided to cash out the inventory he had on hand, and was stringing people along for a long time. I know there's very long, lengthy forum threads, like on the CGC forums, for example, talking about it. There's a whole bunch that's come out of the story, and I'm not an expert on it. I wish I was, but I know there's some stuff too where I know there's another person who's helping some of these people, where he basically like ruined their comics, this Hero Restoration, by doing terrible jobs. And he'd done beautiful work at one point, and then he would just start doing like hack jobs on comic books. And there's a person out there who's out there trying to help, who also does restoration, trying to help some of those victims that got terrible books back, go ahead and fix those books. But I know he also just basically stole money from these people, is essentially what the story is reported as.
Wow. Yeah, I was reading that. And I was like, how was he expecting to get away with this? It just that kind of confused me.
So John, no, that's where this is a different person. So that's where, in that business also had Hero in their name. So I see why some people are conflating the two. But no, this is a story that I was only familiar with like through second and third hand accounts before. I am kind of starting to slowly track it on my radar and try to get up to speed on it. But it's one of those things where I've had people, when I had that story break, I had people messaging me saying that they were victims of Hero Restoration. Today, when I posted about this, I had people contact me that were victims of Hero Restoration. So it's something that's kind of more and more becoming on my radar now. So
I was contacted by Steppo, and he told me he dodged a bullet because he had several books done by this guy.
Wow. Yeah, it makes sense because he's based locally.
Yeah, so lucky for him. Oh, you're mute.
Yeah, I need to type in the private chat. I don't want it to come across the mic.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so he was saying, I think he said he had sent several of his high-end books, maybe even, I'm not thinking it was his Batman one, but several of his high-end books that he had sent in to have worked on. So he's lucky.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I mean, it's baffling when you have businesses that are comporting themselves as real businesses,
Right.
and even in this case, from what I know, doing good work,
Right.
making a name for themselves in this sector, and then all of a sudden, a business is their reputation to a large extent, right?
Right.
So you expect like, oh, hey, I hear really good things about such and such business. I'm going to do business with them. And then if you're the person who's holding the bag when they decide to, do their best Breaking Bad impression, it's really rough for you. And I feel bad for everybody that got affected by this. I mean, $300,000 in comic books, that's several collectors that are out, their prized possessions in a lot of these cases, I bet. So it's just terrible to see, and it breaks my heart, man.
Right. Yeah. 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 Sad to see on all sides. I wonder what happened when the guy's life to change things that way. So.
Yeah. It's very sad.
You get some new people in the chat.
Yeah, I was just trying to get caught up here. Collector P, we welcome you. Thanks for joining the show. I know you just got a package recently. Hopefully you enjoyed what you got from that. Then look at the books for Hulk 1 and Action Comics 7. DeShellis promised he could bring Hulk from a 6.0 to a 9.6 and then just send it to Sanderson. Yeah, so the outsourcing thing, I saw a little bit about that too, where he was basically just like shoving his work off on somebody else. Hero restoration long enough to see yourself become. That's a good one. It's a terrible situation, but that's a good line.
Right.
His business grew way too big, way too fast. He was in over his head and was beyond his restoration expertise. Instead of admitting any of this, he said, "F it," and watch the world burn. Yeah, that's kind of what I've heard too. That's a really good recap, Derek. Jay says, I've seen some of the before and after pics of the restoration. The before books were miles better than the couple books that I've seen, like a couple of Superman books and just some really, really rough stuff. 300K that the detectives have traced. I bet the total is over 1 million. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you got to kind of speculate on that to a certain extent, or how many people had inferior work done and, technically they got their book back, but it's not worth nearly what it was before or what they expected it to be at this point. Oh boy, that's a good one too. Inspiration. The puns, you guys are you're doing great.
Punishing us.
Yeah, every dad's favorite hero is the Punisher. So I don't have a whole lot on this story. I will definitely be tracking it more. There's probably not a ton more track, but I am curious about the line about the dealer in Washington buying the books, because as you know, most of you may know probably that if you have stolen property, it is not yours, no matter how you paid for it or got it. It is the original owner's property. You can't buy stolen goods and hold on to them usually.
I'm curious to find out, too, because I heard some scuttlebutt about things about undercover officers posing as shop workers and stuff at different places. So I hope absolutely that's something that happens for sure. I don't know if that was the same story or not, but there was something about I think that was a stolen collection though, that they had people in a sting operation in shops posing as clerks.
Okay.
When people brought books in to sell from this collection.
I don't know if I'm familiar with the other story, Chris. You probably talked about it on your show, which I usually have to catch on the rewind just because of the timing of it.
We didn't talk about that. Yeah,
we talked about that weeks ago when it first happened. Yeah, there's a news article that was going around about that, and everybody was picking it up like it was news. Which, I mean, hey, some people just don't hear about things quickly. But I was like, hey, people are like, when are you going to talk about this? Like, check out our show from like 3 weeks ago. And I don't mean that like in a snarky way. It was just kind of funny because it was like, well, we did.
right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's absolutely another interesting point for sure. And when somebody said, what's the CGC drama this week earlier in the chat, I was like, well, I mean, they don't technically have any new drama, but they're kind of still recovering from that one. Okay, there's another topic that we definitely have to discuss. Let me copy the link over for that so I can share the screen for y'all. One of the topics we've covered before that I want to make sure we update what's going on with it is the X-Men 97 controversy and the firing of the showrunner, Beau DeMayo. And we have some new information about that. So the Hollywood Reporter is where you can find this story that we're talking about if you want to follow along. However, there are other places talking about this as well. So the headline here is Marvel fires back over X-Men 97 creators' claim that he was stripped of season 2 credit, cites egregious investigation findings. So, the story has been for months is that, you know, he's been really quiet on when he was fired up until recently. Marvel was really quiet on Marvel Studios was really quiet on why he got fired. But if you're not familiar, Beau DeMayo was the showrunner for season 1. A lot of stuff came out, like from when he worked on The Witcher, that he was difficult to work with. At least that was kind of the scuttlebutt that was going around. There was also some stuff about him having his own personal OnlyFans and whether or not some material that he was posting there was considered to be appropriate. I don't personally think that's a huge factor in all of this, but that's something that people were talking about when it came out. But they do say in this article that after he was fired 5 months ago for mysterious reasons, he claimed on Thursday that he will no longer get credit on the second season of the hit Disney Plus show, which he completed work on before his exit. DeMayo made the claim on social media, saying it was part of a troubling pattern he endured while working for Marvel. Marvel shot back soon after in a statement to the Hollywood Reporter and gave insight into his firing, which revealed egregious findings in their investigation. So he posted some fan art on in June, some Pride artwork essentially. Which do they have it in this article? I can't remember if they show the picture. Yeah, so there's a link to his Twitter. It's Cyclops in like beach attire, like, you know, strapping lad Cyclops, and so he posted that for Pride. And that's like perfectly fine. But I think he's trying to basically make it out to be like maybe that involves some of the reasons why he was let go. So Marvel has responded saying that his behavior was the cause of his firing and for him losing the credits. They say Mr. DeMayo was terminated in March 2024 following an internal investigation, according to a Marvel spokesperson. Given the egregious nature of the findings, we severed ties with him immediately, and he has no further affiliation with Marvel. So, sources say that the following his exit, an agreement was reached between the two parties over the issue of tweeting about the show, something that DeMayo had continued to occasionally do. In light of the breaches, his credit for season 2 was removed. While no details of the cause and termination of the internal reviews have surfaced, sources say it involves sexual misconduct. So DeMayo is not responding to comment for that, which is probably not too surprising, especially if there could be ongoing legal proceedings going on. So yeah, it's kind of we're getting some details. It's becoming a little more clear. But the other thing I wanted to talk about in references, which is probably to me the more important thing, is we heard there would be some rewrites on season 2 of X-Men 97. Okay. And so the rumor I saw attached to this is there's going to be extensive rewrites of season 2. And so that's probably another reason why his credit could be removed. I'm not 100% up and up on the credits SAG-AFTRA rights that would be associated with that. But it does sound like they're going to do extensive enough rewrites that they feel like they can remove his name, or they don't want him associated with the project anymore, or both. Maybe that's why they're doing the rewrites. So it is interesting. And a lot of people want season 2 to be just as good as season 1. I do know that it's not like, from what I understand, it's not like Beau DeMayo was the only person responsible for making season 1 of X-Men 97 good. So right. I think there's a lot of hope for that show still, but it is interesting for people that are following along and wondering what's going on. I am curious. Yeah, exactly. Chris, it's not why he was fired, but it's what a lot of people pointed to when the original story came out. It didn't add up.
Wow, that's spicy.
That is definitely spicier. That would go along with the sexual misconduct.
Right.
Now, I'm curious, Chris, is that something that you've read from a close source, or is that something that you're privy to, or because I haven't seen that reported anywhere now, so I'm just curious. Let's go Cyclops. And yeah, everyone, including the people on screen here, loved X-Men 97, so we want it to be good too. I have faith.
I'm still traumatized from that Cyclops art that you and Katie were sending me.
Now, was that with permission though?
That was with permission. I totally had
Okay.
permission. You guys asked me if I wanted to see it, and it was hilarious, but it was traumatizing.
I felt the need to point that out before anybody before we go viral for the wrong reason.
Right.
Okay, alleged. Okay, yeah, and that's kind of, I've seen some allegations about stuff like that too. It's just getting interesting. I'm not sure if X-Men is a union show, but if so, you have to have written about 50% to keep a writer's credit, and that. I know he wasn't the sole writer on the first season. If they do change things up, maybe they're trying to get it below that threshold so they can remove the credit and kind of distance themselves further. It probably needed some rewrites anyway, because they are going to have a different showrunner going forward, and so they probably have a slightly different vision, or they don't know what Beau DeMayo was thinking for seasons down the road. So unless he left him a roadmap,
Right.
Seeing Forge playing a bigger role everywhere, X-Men Season 2 will surely have him, and it's the leader of X-Force now, basically. Yeah, I'm all for more Forge. I think he's a cool character, for sure. And I mean, yeah, anybody from the classic X-Men lineups that we get, even some of the newer stuff, I'm going to be stoked. Of course, there's the Grant Morrison costumes, which is a joke, the Frank Quietly costumes, all that stuff. We talked about that, I believe, last week.
We did.
Yeah, so you definitely have some more information out there about it. Oh gosh. Robert Downey Jr. is going to play a new character in season 2 of X-Men 97. I did want to move along though quickly. Let me see what the next topic I have on my agenda here is. This is kind of along similar lines. Let me grab my link. And this is admittedly not a site I'm familiar with. It's admittedly kind of some clickbait, potentially rumor mongering kind of thing. I'm putting a disclaimer up, but it is interesting. So I'll let everybody judge for themselves. Again, I'm not familiar with this website. I didn't dig deep into their journalistic stance, but there's a rumor that the Brave New World director, which is the new Captain America film, Julius Ona, has pretty much been removed from the project. So a new rumor claims that he's pretty much been removed from the project. There's a scooper who I think has a kind of a success track record, but all these scoopers have hits and misses because they get misinformation too. He's been cordial about it though, so his name will still be listed according to the scooper. He added, similar to Rogue One when Tony Gilroy was brought in to finish the film, Gareth Edwards didn't start drama, so they let him keep full credit. I'll never forget the Rogue One thing because I was a big follower of Tested, which is a tech and review website. And Gary Whitta, who was the screenwriter for Rogue One, it was a regular on that. And they were always talking about something he's working on. He's like, I can't say what I'm working on, but it's really awesome. And then Rogue One came out, and then they started talking about it. That was a really cool moment to talk about that because I love Rogue One. But yeah, so similar to Rogue One, where he's been removed in response to another user accusing him of lying. He wrote, and the Rogue One actors all talked nicely about Gareth Edwards for the entire press run. I'm not sure how what you're saying disproves anything. This is kind of like this. There's this weird world of clout chasing when it comes to the rumor mill. It is interesting though, because there's the reshoot stuff happening with Captain America: Brave New World. There is this kind of history of when directors get removed from projects, or it's not really quiet quitting, quiet fired. I don't know what to call it. When that kind of stuff happens, there does tend to be a similar drop in quality. Not always. Like Rogue One was, I think, a really good film, for example, and it had similar issues, but it can happen.
It happened with Han Solo in the Solo movie.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so I think what this means basically is that at a point along the way, he was basically taken off the project, but they also have to do a lot of the post-production work on it was still being done, I'm sure, when this first started coming out. And still probably is. I'm sure that they do that special effects stuff right up to the week of release, basically. So there's definitely some editing going on that you're about to be involved in. But I think the point was that this happened. I'm reading between the lines, but I think they're saying it happened somewhere along the way on the project, and it basically phased over. So it's just a quick story, something we can kind of monitor as time goes on. And I wanted to make sure we mentioned. I also want to follow it because I'm curious if there's any truth to this story, because oftentimes there isn't. And I like to point that out when they're wrong
Or
sometimes
truth
as well.
is stranger than fiction. Yes.
Yes. Speaking along the exact same lines, and this will be an extremely quick look at this story. A major DC Studios project is already reportedly facing delays, and this is about Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. So supposedly it won't begin principal photography until January 2025, which would put it behind track. I don't think there's any reason really given for this in this article that I saw. But yeah, it could be seeing some delays with one of the early, prominent DC films that was supposed to be coming out. So that's just a real quick hit on that I wanted to discuss. And then the other big film and TV news, this actually broke today. This is from Deadline. Part of the reason I wore the Star Wars shirt that I'm wearing for the show, just because I was like, Star Wars is on my mind. The Acolyte has been canceled after season 1's been all wrapped up for a little while now. It is not being renewed for season 2. It has been canceled by Disney Plus. It was obviously a very derisive show. A lot of people did not enjoy it. I actually liked it. Like, I'm not gonna say I loved it. I think it had its moments. I think it had a lot of flaws, but I think there was some good stuff there. I won't get into the major spoilers because why not? There was some new character introduction kind of stuff that happened that Star Wars fans were excited about, more so than probably the rest of the show. And I do wonder if that's going to still, I'm sure they're going to do something with that character and move forward with it. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. And I do think that it's interesting. There's been a pretty bad track record on the Star Wars shows. Obi-Wan, there's been a lot of talk about whether or not that would get renewed. Book of Boba Fett apparently is not coming back to Mandalorian and Grogu. Boba Fett is not coming back to the Mandalorian and Grogu film that's coming out. And there's no talk of a season 2 for that. Andor is like the exception. So Andor I
actually liked the Boba Fett show. So.
I had mixed feelings about it. I think it felt like it had some pacing issues.
I can see that, yeah. But overall, it was pretty good.
Yeah, that final battle was pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's just been and also the when Black Chrysanthemum is pulling Boba out of the Bacta tank, that whole fight was gnarly. I like that too, quite a bit.
Oh, I got to meet the actor who played Black Chrysanthemum, and
oh yeah.
Yeah, he played Black Chrysanthemum and Man Thing. So
right on, that's cool.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Nice.
I actually, I walked up and said, "Can I do a little interview with you, like 30 seconds?" And he's looked around, and nobody's looking. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like Comic Trip says, it's interesting. I like the show overall, and I did too. It's this culture that we've grown that is grown is almost a double entendre here of everything has to be either the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. Like there's no in between, especially when it comes to Star Wars, Marvel, comic book related projects, IPs right. Basically.
Right.
And it's, look, I won't go into spoilers for the end of the show, but I'll say that there's a lightsaber fight in an episode called Night in that show. I think it's like the 4th or 5th episode that is epic. It has some real problems, and I'll tell you my biggest problem with Acolyte, and I know I'm not alone in this. I'm tired of seeing Jedi portrayed as flawed heroes and bad guys, almost like the accidental villains of the stories. Like we very rarely have gotten a clear glimpse of Jedi being what they're supposed to be, which I understand is a very fun narrative world to play in. Right. But if that's all we ever do with it, it actually doesn't work.
Right.
There needs to be times where, and I saw somebody say in a private Discord server earlier today that, hey, it's time now for the Old Republic. Let's get some of those stories told, or the Knights of the Old Republic era. And maybe we could see some Jedi at their peak there. That'd be good. Because the High Republic is in kind of some trouble now after this show. there's a lot of good stuff there in the comics and the books, but I don't know if you can really tell those stories as films or TV shows now, because they would inevitably have to change some things, and that stuff's canon. So how do you change it? So you'd have to tell new stories, and some of those characters are amazing. But again, it's kind of like they're prideful, they're falling. It's like their fall from pride. Essentially, it's a tragedy. And you know, obviously the story of Anakin, he eventually redeems himself, but clearly he's a major villain for a very long time. Really, we've only had Luke Skywalker, and I would argue that the sequel trilogy, for me personally, sullied a lot of his legacy, and you know, being willing to think about sorting down his nephew for a second is a really dark moment. Connor says, question is Hugh's suit from D&W basically a mix between the classic tiger stripe suit and the astonishing suit? So is Hugh Jackman's suit from Deadpool and Wolverine basically a mix? I don't know. I see it more as the classic suit.
The astonishing suit doesn't have the sleeves on it.
Well, yeah, but neither does the classic suit.
Right.
I mean, the sleeves are only there because of Hugh's skin,
right?
From what I understand, and they obviously go away for some of the filming. It's a good question, Connor.
Did you see that little conspiracy theory that his sleeveless arms are digital?
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, there's some stuff. There's some people out there with some theories.
Well, if they were going to do that, could they have please added the shoulder pads in?
Yeah,
Because I wanted to just give me some shoulder pads on there, or whatever you would call those. They're not even like shoulder horns. I don't know what to call them.
Yeah, I've seen some videos on that. It was interesting.
As a Star Wars fan, would it derail the franchise for you if they added a time travel element to modify the mythology? They actually already have a time travel element. The World Between Worlds is introduced in Clone Wars final season. It's touched upon in Rebels, but the Filoni era of Star Wars, they talked about it quite a bit, with Ahsoka especially having traveled on the World Between Worlds. So yes, Jay. Hot Toys did have Hot Toys, their costume looked better than the movie costume in my opinion. And I was excited because I saw the Hot Toys toy and I was like, oh snap, this is going to be like, and it was a very cool costume in the movie. Don't get me wrong.
Right. Oh yeah, it looked good.
Could have been a touch more polished in my opinion.
Just a few tweaks. Says Braun's fashion designer.
You know, I mean, I'm somebody who's nothing's ever perfect, right? So that said, I do want to remind everybody that we do have a giveaway going on right now. Hashtag terrific. Let's fill those books up one more time. And if you are a channel member, or let's put it this way, if you were a channel member in July, you're eligible for the giveaway I'm doing at the end of the show for my channel members on the Bronze Age Nerd YouTube channel. I just want to mention that because I know some people were curious about that. We are giving away the first appearance of Spider-Boy. That's the Doc Ock, Alex Ross Virgin variant for that issue. Giving away some Lady Death. That is Diabolical Harvest issue 2, the Heat edition. Batman Adventures number 13, the issue after the first appearance of Harley Quinn. Pulled from a box at Washington State SummerCon, Dave's West Coast Avengers box. And then also you get issue 1 of Robert Kirkman's Astounding Wolfman, which is a fantastic read. I highly recommend reading that book.
Yeah, really good.
Also, you know, could play into the Invincible show as we were talking about before.
Sure. So I got some clarification on, that sometimes the story gets told enough times that it becomes truth, even if it's not true.
Yeah.
So I've always heard that Al Milgrom did not like the cover for Avengers Annual 10 that he did. And Mr. Akins mocked it up and is having Al and Michael Golden redo the panels on the cover. And he said, well, here's your chance to redo it. And we always heard you didn't like it. And Al's like, "Who said that?" He said, "I loved it. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that cover. I've never had an issue with that cover. It's just one of those things that goes around. It's kind of like, and then it becomes canon, you know."
How do you feel about that cover?
It could be better, but I mean, it does convey a lot of what's going on in the story. It could definitely be better. The one that, so if you guys want to see, Akins had two of the, he did a beautiful job because there's not a virgin variant of that. He traced that cover and with all the lettering and everything with empty boxes.
Oh wow!
And on a Avengers annual blank.
Oh, okay.
And then he married it to a Avengers annual 10 reprint, and he's having artwork done on it. It's really cool.
Wow. No, that's interesting. Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah, it's I don't think it's as bad a cover as people make it out to be. It's a bad cover for a first appearance of a character in that respect, because there's one little box that references her and it's not even that cool. That is actually a great comic, though. I'll tell you that much. I actually really enjoy the interiors on that book quite a bit.
And I had heard rumors that Michael Golden was a dick, and I've always loved Michael Golden's artwork, and I can confirm Michael Golden's a dick.
So I've had the opposite experience with Michael Golden than everybody else. I had a really good experience with Michael Golden. I know Mad Spidey has a couple great stories about Michael Golden, or maybe that was Arthur Sider. He gets
Bleecker Street has a good Michael Golden story too. But
okay, but I had nothing but good experiences with Michael Golden. But this was maybe like 10, 12 years ago, and I've heard maybe it's going to change. So, hey, who knows?
I was there praising his artwork, and I was surprised at the response. I was just telling him that I thought he was a great artist, and that he was underrated, and that he kicked the doors down for people like Todd McFarlane and other guys, because he had that animated style that was so expressive, and I loved it. And so I said, I feel you're underrated, and you need more credit. And he said, not in my mind. And it just went downhill from there.
Wow. Yeah. I guess I just kind of had more of a, back then I did not really have like long well, right before that I had a bad experience with Kurt Busiek, and I was nice to him. So I was like, hey, I'm a big fan. I really like, I have my Thunderbolts. I was hoping you could sign it. I really like the story. I really like the twist and everything. And he was just kind of like, said nothing basically to me. So maybe that kind of shut me up. That was the same show where I met Michael Golden.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I said my spiel to him, and then I said, I'd just love to record this little bit about praising your artwork on my show. And he said, I don't do endorsements. And I said, I'm not asking for an endorsement. I want to say nice things about your artwork. And he said, I suppose. And so I did my little thing, and I said what I was going to say, and he responded to me. So I responded back, and then he responded to me again, and I said, thank you for your time. And I turned the camera off, and he goes, that was an interview, and that's not what you asked for.
Wow.
I'm like, you responded to me. What am I supposed to do? Just ignore it and turn the camera off? I'm like, okay.
I mean, to Comic Trips comment here, he may have been quiet because I was secretly trying to get him to sign a contract to work with my comic book company. I was like trying to slide it under the comic book, but I think he caught me. And just kidding. Yeah, that's brutal, man. Like, and I can relate.
I was saying nothing but nice things about him too.
Right.
I was like, I love your artwork. It's inspired me. I think it's amazing. It kicked the doors open for a lot of guys who had that more animated style. And it's just like, wow. Okay.
It's one of those things too where I think a few of us that are watching this can relate. It's hard putting yourself out there talking to a comic book creator and trying to push the envelope slightly beyond just a regular fan. You're like, hey, for me, it's because of the YouTube channel, or it's because of I talked about Heroes for Heroes, and you had some of that experience this weekend. Because you know that these creators get hit up so many times about these things. So
I have a Heroes for Heroes negative experience with
That-
Sergeant
okay.
Slaughter.
Really?
Yeah, Sarge was there and he had his handler, and I walked up and I told him, I said, "Hey, Sarge, big G.I. Joe fan, big wrestling fan." His handler was busy finagling a deal for signed photos, and Sarge was like, "Oh, thanks so much." And I said, "Hey," and I explained the whole Heroes for Heroes, veteran suicide prevention, and he's like, "That sounds pretty cool. You'll have to talk to my handler." And I told him, and the handler said, "What do you want?" And I told him, and he said, "No, go away."
Oh yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, it happens a lot with. There's a couple. I don't want to get negative about the groups. There's a couple groups I talk to the handlers sometimes, and they kind of they're managers is really kind of what they are really on some level, and it's clear to them. They're like, okay, well, I don't see the benefit in it. The immediate benefit, like you're not offering to pay for this right now. You're not, and I could tell that it's like a light switch for them. They're just like, I don't care. And it's, I get it on one hand. On the other hand, it sucks when I've had conversations with the talent right before that, and they seem like this situation. They seem like into it,
right?
And hey, maybe they're just being polite. That's possible, or whatever, right? And they know that their handler's going to give the no answer. But I think in some of these cases, it's no, genuinely, that's interesting. I don't deal with that though. Talk to them, and then it's sorry, we're not doing that, or
right.
even,
it wasn't a sorry, it was a no, go away. That was like,
yeah,
wow.
I edited it to be a little more polite than it was.
Yeah, I was like, well, that's rough. I was like, okay. So
I've heard good things about his daughter. I know she's pretty active in the Joe community too. So it's one of those things where never say never. With some of these people, like Sarge is a fantastic example of this. People we're going to try to reach out to help with Heroes for Heroes. Like I had a very brief opportunity with Larry Hama, but it was kind of a quick shutdown with him. But he was polite about it. He was extremely polite about it. I didn't even get to the Heroes for Heroes part. I think if I had, it probably would have gone better. But I mentioned hey, I'm this YouTuber and I do this stuff, and I think he kind of instantly went to, I don't need to do that. I've answered every question there is to answer. I'm fine. And he was, like I said, he was nice about it. I know he was having kind of a bad show for some reasons. And I don't blame him at all for that, or anybody who says no. But then again, you'd hope people are polite when they turn something like that down.
For sure. I mean, that those were the only two really negative experiences I had at the show. Everything else was great. So, but there was just a couple things, and you just got to roll with it. And like you said, go on to the next. And the next person was super stoked about it and so nice. So,
yeah,
I gotta mispronounce her name. The Star Trek actress that I sent you.
Yes.
Did you pronounce her last name? Check your car keys. I don't know how. So she's like, my last name is Check your car keys. So I'm like, okay. She was super nice. She knew about Mission 22 and finished my sentence before I finished it. I was like, Mission 22. She said, preventing veteran suicide. I'm in. So I mean, yeah,
right on.
So nice. Yeah.
No, that's cool. We'll definitely be revealing, some of those people that we have commitments from as time goes on. Probably going to be doing our own social media accounts for that as well. Folks, I do got to take one more ad break. This will be our last ad break before we do the giveaways. So stay tuned for that, and also some wrap up kind of notes that you're going to want to hear about. So this is our last ad break. This one's a shorter break. We'll see you in a little bit more than a minute, and we'll be right back here with more Best Coast Comics.
In a world where you hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel,
That'd be really great. Thanks.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
Perfect timing. Welcome back to Best Coast Comics. I'm going to throw this hashtag up on the screen one more time here because we're about ready to do this drawing. Hashtag terrific is your chance to win a Astounding Wolfman trade and some free comic books. I've shown them off a couple times, but yeah, first appearance of Spider-Boy, all that fun stuff. While I'm waiting for you to enter in your hashtag terrific to get a chance to win some free books, just want to remind you that not only are we streaming over here on the Bronze Age Nerd channel, the Big B McFly channel, and all of the EXP's channels, including their Twitch, their Facebook, their YouTube channel as well, of course, and over on IG Live. Definitely make sure that you are subbed up to all those channels. You don't want to miss some of that great content that's over on the EXP. A lot of good stuff happens over there. Original art shows, Minute to Skim It, Mint Hunter claim sales, 360 Comics, all kinds of great stuff happens over there. Lots of good shows you want to be part of, and lots more content coming to that channel as well. Some cool stuff I know about in the works, so make sure you're subbed up over there. And then don't forget to sub up Big B McFly if you're not subbed up to him. I know I've seen some people from his channel come over and join our other channels. Hopefully do the same for him as well. If you're a viewer of those other channels, go sub up to Big B McFly as well. And we want everybody to do well. So yeah, we are going to do that drawing right now. So I'm going to pull up the page with the StreamYard giveaway tool here. Let me just get that up for everybody.
Oh, I didn't realize I was muted still. I was saying, I'm so close to 1,500. That's what I was trying to say.
Sorry about that. I thought you were just doing like the minor.
I did cover the cough, and then I just totally forgot to unmute.
Here we are for hashtag terrific. There we have 17 entries. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this. Good luck, everybody. I do wish you the best of luck and win those free comic books. Please, 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 if you win, contact me or Big B or my Discord server or whatever after the show, so I know where to send your stuff. Oh gosh, I totally forgot to talk about Kraven, Sean. Yeah, we can talk about that. We have a little time left.
Oh yeah.
And we have Psycho Phil. Psycho Phil, awesome dude. Very happy to see him win. Congratulations, Psycho Phil. Luckily, I do already have your shipping information, unless something's changed. In which case, just let me know. But those books are going to be going out to you. I should have those out tomorrow for you. And then.
Well, apparently Bronze has removed himself from the stream. So, hi guys, we're getting some stuff going on here.
Sorry, I bumped the mouse and hit the back button on it accidentally. When I was putting it down.
I was like, oh, well, I'm taking a drink of water. I'll just start talking.
I do want to just talk about real fast. I'm going to do this here at the end of the show for my channel members. This only works if you're a channel member on the Bronze Age Nerd channel. But I am going to do a giveaway for you. I want to put myself large here. I'll show you real fast what those books are. I'm going to do the Stefan Sejic Harleen. That's the magazine style book. Cool book.
Yeah.
Kind of retells the origin of Harley meeting the Joker. The Monkey Prince, that was the Chinese New Year gold foil sealed envelope version of that. So you're going to get a chance to win that if you were a channel member back in July. Don't worry, there'll be a giveaway sometime in September, which I usually make a pretty good one because it's my birth month. Doing some Ivan Tao, friend of the channel Ivan Tao, giving you a little Robin Hood. That's a negative space cover for you. I was
going to say, speaking of negative space, there you go.
Yeah, so I try to pick things that are kind of themed out. Deadpool and Wolverine still kind of a big deal, so I'll do a New Mutants 98 facsimile there for you. And also, I had offer on a claim sale. No one picked it up. This is the Tyler Kirkham signed Absolute Carnage versus Deadpool #1. And then I won a short box trivia giveaway. So I'm including one of the books that they gave me. This is Falling in Love on the Path to Hell #1. Very cool cover there. So give you a chance to read a new story that's coming out from Image.
Good things about that. I heard that had some heat behind it.
There we go. So that'll be at the end of the show. So I just want to let those channel members know. So I had people, let's talk about the Kraven trailer. I didn't even get a chance to get to it. Oh, hey, thank you so much, Comic Trips. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Yes, yeah, absolutely. That is very true. So not sure if Kraven has been discussed, but the trailer has me surprisingly interested. And that's kind of my point, Sean, that I was going to make. Oh, and I should probably put us back on our normal view here. So the Sony Spider-Man Marvel movies are continuing, for better or worse. And look, I mean, after Madam Web, after some of the other stuff we've gotten from them, I think people, Venom has been kind of a mixed bag for people. The first one wildly successful, that kind of thing. Third one, people are kind of like, I don't know. I've seen mixed feelings on it, right?
The venomized horse,
Yeah, I mean, you got a venomized horse. It's got to be fun, right? But I thought the first Kraven trailer that came out, which I think technically was a teaser, although it was a long trailer, I think it looked terrible, like horrifically bad. I will say this new trailer that came out about a week ago now at this point looked pretty cool.
I thought it looked great.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, I think Comic Trips hit it right on the head here. It looks fine, except maybe for Rhino's cartoon face with a big blobbish nose. Yeah, Rhino looks a little too, I don't know, like the exposed face is probably a little silly in live action. But
I thought, but everybody got upset about the robotic ones. I thought they're trying to be more comic book accurate.
Maybe a Batman, like Wolverine, like the
they modernized him.
Eyes.
They had two different rhinos recently where so they had fighting each other in Spider-Man. Not recently, like a couple years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago.
Yeah,
but they had one where it cuts off and it's kind of like almost like a Wolverine mask. Yeah.
Later, John.
Bye, John.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, I actually think this new cut of the trailer looks good, but ultimately it has me wondering, like, to what end? Like, what's going to happen? The Morbius, the whole shared universe they've done has been kind of a mess, and it hasn't really felt too shared. I mean, there's been tiny bits of it, but all of it comes down to just they're doing these movies just to keep the rights to the Spider-Man live action films so they can continue collecting money off of the MCU involvements of Spider-Man and getting a chance to use characters. That's what it feels like to me anyway. That's kind of my quick take on it. Yeah, it does. I think we're doing like totems is basically what's happening based off what I saw from the two trailers combined. Is my opinion on it. Maybe I'm wrong, but at this point, can't they just do the Ultimate Universe and use Miles? I mean, they might have made a special deal with Marvel, because I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Marvel Studios proper has plans for Miles, or at least they want to. They did basically reference him in the No Way Home film, so.
I wonder if he's included in the stuff that they get to use.
That's kind of what I wonder if they had sort of pinned out a deal when it came to the Tom Holland contract.
Or if it was like you have the rights to everything Spider-Man up to the time you signed the original contract,
Yeah, maybe. And yeah, I guess I have a hard time getting excited about stories about Spidey's enemies and friends without any mention of Spidey. And that's kind of spoilers for Madam Web. I think we're okay at this point.
I don't know. A lot of people are excited about that movie.
Like, there's a baby in that movie that's going to be Peter Parker being born, and yet they don't. I think that I can't. Did they actually say his? I think they might say his name at one point.
I think they say his name was Peter. They do say his name is Peter, but yeah,
it's so cheesy. And I mean, like, you get I forgot the actor's name, but the actor from Parks and Recreation, playing Ben, essentially
his Uncle Ben.
Yeah, which that was cool. I mean, it could have been a cool setup to other stuff, but they're not going anywhere with it. That's the problem.
The Pepsi fireworks factory is dangerous.
Don't go there. It's dangerous. I've seen the future. It's just one of those things where, and the other thing I've seen too, by the way, is that I don't know how all the rights break down for this because it's very complicated contract law, but it does seem like something I saw earlier might be correct, which is if they use these characters, then Marvel Studios can't use them. So like I think they have first dibs essentially. So if they use Kraven, if they use Rhino, you're basically just stealing these excellent villains from Spider-Man's. Granted, he has a very large rogues gallery, but now you can't have Morbius. Now you can't have Rhino. You can't have Kraven. You can't have all the characters basically featured in Madam Web, including Ezekiel and all that stuff too. Basically, probably it's just getting weird at this point where like what you've got Mysterio, you've got Vulture, you've got Shocker, Kingpin. I don't even know where.
Kingpin is MCU proper, right?
Right, exactly. I'm saying all those are because they were all in the Tom Holland Spider-Man films, or obviously are already in projects, right? So, but I think they're also, can they do Green Goblin and Norman and all that? I think they can,
right?
Because those were in the Sam Raimi movies. I don't know if there's really been any. I don't think has there been Oscorp references. I haven't even noticed any, but
no, because there was Oscorp non-existence references when Norman was there in the MCU. He said, "I went to my company and it's not there."
Right, that's true.
Yes, his mansion was gone. His company was gone.
And it does make me wonder if since they used like the Raimi Doc Ock and Goblin and all that stuff, I wonder if they can use those characters now, like as different versions. Mr. Negative might be cool, actually. Yeah, there's that's a good point. Now there's no AMA.
We can bring her back. Mephisto will do something.
It's just a confusing rabbit hole because not only are you kind of robbing Peter when it comes to the two different universes here. And by the way, there's also in Venom 2, there's also that kind of ending that made me think, oh, maybe they are going to cross over these characters more with the MCU.
Right, when Venom saw Spider-Man on the screen, and he was like, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, what's Venom and Carnage if you don't have Spider-Man in the same universe too? It's a very weird place to be in. Jack-o'-lantern, Rocket Racer, the Kangaroo. Yep. And I mean, don't forget Paste Pot Pete, right? Always have to mention it. There's just going to be so much interesting stuff going on with those films, and then I just, even if Kraven's awesome, let's say it's a 10 out of 10 film, what does it build to? With like, is Kraven the hero of this character because he's like the anti-hero? I don't know.
Weren't we supposed to be building to a Sinister Six movie at some point that would cross over with Spider-Man?
I think originally they were, but like,
right.
I don't. And maybe, you know what? Hey, maybe they can do that. Maybe they could do almost like I don't know. Maybe we could build up to like a Raft breakout kind of a thing or something like that, where we eventually get to see Spider-Man facing most of his foes. It'd be cool, but yeah, exactly. I think that's the mid-credit scene of Venom 2. I want to say, Let There Be Carnage, with him. Yeah, if they do something that does eventually cross over, it ended up feeling that was kind of like just a setup for. Would it have been No Way Home? Yeah, I think No Way Home.
Didn't they show that in the preview that they're there at the bar and they capture that or whatever? They got away. I don't know.
It's just a weird situation.
Like some sort of a TVA jumping thing that's capturing Venom material. I don't know.
It's just bizarre. I don't know what to do with these movies, and you know what? I don't ever want a movie to fail unless it fails so hard that it's enjoyable to. Like Madam Web was actually kind of enjoyable to hate watch.
Well, like you were talking about, also like you're saying, use it to prevent them. So like the Fox movies used Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch to try to, or Quicksilver, not Scarlet Witch, right? We didn't have Scarlet Witch, but they used Quicksilver so that they couldn't use Quicksilver in the MCU. But they went ahead and just said screw you and did it anyway.
That's the kind of stuff that's just so funny to me. It's like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, I do want to do this giveaway real fast before we go over time.
Let's do that. It's important. Get it done, man.
Just one more time to explain this, because hey, I did the free chat giveaway for the hashtag, and I do appreciate everybody doing that. This every month for my channel members on my YouTube channel, the Bronze Age Nerd YouTube channel specifically, I do a giveaway. So this is for the month of July, because I've been, unfortunately,
probably get rid of that banner. Get rid of that banner. People are thinking they're gonna still be able to win.
Oh gosh, thank you. I forgot that was still up there.
There you go.
So this is for the channel members as up to the month of July. If you became a channel member today, for example, you'd be eligible for September's giveaway. But real fast, I just want to shout out those channel members: Buddy McKinley, DC Irish, Chester Benson, Collector P, we saw in chat earlier, Jack B Comics, X11 Bravo, Tomb, Comic Journey, Shigeyuki Kikita, Matt268, Shadow Rat, who we saw earlier in chat, Darren Smith, Psycho Phil, who won the earlier giveaway, Comic Bookworm, Paul Pittman, Wilbert, Papa Wheelie, Sean Sipple, and Comics Limited. Fantastic channel members. I really appreciate the support. Folks, the things like this, all this does help stuff like Heroes for Heroes. Like I'll have to be ordering a lot of supplies for shipping out artwork. That kind of stuff is not cheap or easy. I have to ship in some artwork from overseas every year, so it does get a little expensive. These kind of membership costs really do help. If you can't support, you watching, liking, commenting, going and subbing up over on the EXP, going and subbing up Big B McFly the Comic Book Guy, sharing our posts, watching, all that stuff helps too. I don't want you to think it doesn't help. It all helps. I'm going to shuffle this 3 times. There's 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to click the wheel so we get our winner. Good luck, all the channel members out there. And we have... Who's Jack? Looks like it's going to be Jack B Comics is our winner. Jack, I do have your address. Unless it's changed, you're another one. It's been a while since I shipped you something. If your address has changed, go ahead and let me know. Congratulations on your win. Yeah, that's really awesome. And yeah, like I said, Shadow Rat, your stuff is going out here tomorrow. So you won twice. You're very lucky. So awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're getting near the end of the show here. We have Heroes for Heroes stuff coming up. Definitely go check that out. We have another show coming up next week, of course.
Shigeyuki.
Yeah, you've got your video coming out here pretty soon, like within minutes, it sounds like.
It's coming out at 11. It'll be on at
11. So that definitely go check out Big B's video for Terrificon. It sounds like it was a blast.
Yeah.
And then don't forget to check out.
This is just gonna be a dialogue recap talking about all the books that I got, Aiken's got, and all of our interactions with everybody that we met all along the way. So
awesome. So I was just gonna say, speaking of other shows coming out too, there's some great stuff coming up on the EXP. Definitely go check out all the stuff. Tomorrow you'll probably have Minute to Skim It, and you'll have Mint Hunter Comics. Schedule subject to change. Also some other great shows that are coming out. The original art experience on Fridays. There's so many great art shows and so many great comic sales shows and comic news shows. Dan Wickline show, who's been a guest on the on our channel before.
And was great
stuff. Kicking it with Henri. Yeah, thanks for the reminder there, Jay. That's another great one. I've bought some nice books from Henri before too. He's a comic creator and he sells comic books. Doesn't get any better than that, right? So
right.
Definitely recommend going and checking out their content over there. You will not be disappointed. Anything you got left before we say goodbye to the YouTube airwaves, Big B?
I'll have Terrificon videos trickling out all week, so keep an eye out, both on YouTube and on Instagram. So keep an eye, and hopefully Bronze can accompany me next time we do something. And yeah.
We're still deciding about Rose. I'm still deciding about Rose City. It's coming up in a few weeks.
I have a lead on passes. We need to talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, we should talk about that. I got to see if I can get that Saturday free from my responsibilities so I can attend. It's actually the day after my birthday, so
well, if you can go, Lunch Money Comics will be hanging out with us.
Ooh, all right. Well, we'll definitely talk about that. If you're going to be at Rose City Comic Con, like I know Comic Trip said he was going to try to make it on Saturday. Definitely hit us up and let us know if you're going to be around so we can meet up with you, get a picture, talk to you, that kind of stuff, hang out at the show.
One more thing. Speaking of stickers, hashtag sticker people, but what's Dr. Plegus? Thank you so much for all the stickers we all gave away at the show. It was amazing. And if you guys are looking for stickers or anything like that, hit up Dr. Plegus. on Instagram. He's building a clientele, and he'll get you set up.
Nice. Sweet deals.
For a great price.
Yeah, and they look like really good stickers. He made a cool shirt too. So
yeah.
Sure. Well, for both of us, I am Bronze Age Nerd, and that is Big Big McFly, the comic book guy, and we are your hosts for Best Coast Comics. We'll see you next week at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, talking about more comic news and all kinds of fun stuff. So tune in for that show. And in the meantime, I did just put out a video on my channel for the first time in a while. I put up a recorded video as a CGC unboxing with like some cost analysis breakdown stuff in it too, if you're interested in that. I actually filmed it a while ago, but I finally got it out. And you'll see some more content from me soon too.
We forgot one thing.
Oh, what's that?
Thanks to Jay.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Jay. Jay holding it down on the dials and the switches backstage for us has helped us tremendously in ways that we cannot fully express. But he did a great job.
Yes.
All right, folks. We'll see you next week. Have a great week. And remember to keep reading comics. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.